Greetings, Pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today I wanted to share with you something that I've been working on. I'm attempting to create some stone tiles here that have these fractures in them, or these cracks. And specifically, I'm trying to replicate the artistic style of an old favorite board game. And this is from a board game called Hero Quest. And specifically today, I wanted to focus on these kinds of cracked tiles in here. And you can see there's a few in here, and this has got a whole bunch of broken up. And over here, some different styles of cracks with these angular designs. So that's what I've been working on. So we'll put our reference over here. And I will move this so that we can see that nice and prominently. Let's get that going on in there. There we go. Right there. So what I wanted to show you today was how to go about doing that here in Substance. And specifically, I wanted to show you how I went from this and all of this down to just this. It's a pretty cool process. You can use subgraphs. You may not be aware of these. And let's just step through it one piece at a time, and I'll show you how we can condense it. So to begin with, I have an SVG node, and this allows me to draw directly into a file here. So I can draw a shape and then use that shape as a mask. Now, it might be a little difficult to see here because there we go. My drawing here is just some white lines representing the cracks in the rock. And you can see that one is that still represented here, or did I hide that? I may have hidden that at the moment. But so I draw this, and then what I need to do from here is come down here, and immediately I turn this into an edge detect. So now I can start to smooth out this shape. But now the shape is smooth, so I don't have the jagged edges from my drawing. But now I need to make it jagged because it is a rock. It's a fracture. It has angles. So what we do is we're going to warp this by using this crystal node here, and just pump that directly in. And I don't put it very high, just a little bit. It's actually at 0. You can see it still does the job. I get these broken edges a little bit. And now I'm going to push that along and say, let's warp it again. And this time using a clouds 3. And by warping it here by just a little bit here, look, we're only at 0.05. You see what we start to get here. This broken up, which is nice, and I want these gradations, but is a little too much at the moment. So let's throw it into a blur. And this is a high quality grayscale blur so that we keep our quality. See quality all the way up, and it's still only 0.51. This is looking a lot better, but still a little bit more. So let's throw that back into a warp again, and using the same transform from over here. I use a transform and actually scaled it up and angled it a bit, so I get a little bit different from before. And now you'll see what we're getting. This is closer to what we want. This flat surface here that comes and gets jagged and then falls into the darkness, into that cavity, into that void. And then over here we're just throwing in a levels and blending it. So then with this levels, I'm taking a copy from back up the chain and overlaying it, and then setting this to max lighten. And you'll see what we got here is a little bit more of that gradation down into the void. We had too sharp of a decline at first, so we need to have a little bit more of the edge showing there. And then blend that one more time. I believe this is with a white over top of it, just to kind of lighten everything up. So then we can take this guy and blend in again, and now we just get top to bottom. We go straight, and then we come down a bit of an angle, so that edge, we get that very corner edge, and then it starts to really slope down at the bottom. And I purposely left this a little gray in here, not solid black, so that we can add this shape again, something like this, but more scaled in. We could add that back on top in order to really darken the very pit, but we still have our details here. So all of this is really handy and awesome. And then we take this up here, and I do an invert, and I use this as a mask to then blend my color with a solid black. There you go, and I use it as a mask, so that's how we cut into the shape here. And we take that same shape here, and we are pumping it over into normal maps here. So you got a couple different designs already, and then combining those normal maps. And right now I'm just doing a combine in order to see all of the shapes at once, and then that way I can say, oh well, I don't really like the way this one plays. I'm working on the idea of using permutations here, so it will randomize these. So I have to make sure that they all work together, and that you can overlay them and combine them like this. So far it's working really well, and I'm really happy with the result that we have so far, but we need to make sure that we've covered all of our angles. No pun intended for this. So now that we have all of that, this is great, but this is going to be a lot of space on my chart, and it's just taking up room. And how do we make this better, faster, simpler, cleaner? Well, here's how. So let's move this out of the way. And you can see here Then I have another SVG here where I've drawn a different shape, and I have yet another SVG here where I've drawn a different shape, but I'm only passing it into one node, and look, it's doing all of that in one node. And then I just simply say, okay, let's invert that and start using that as a mask. So how do we condense all of this? Well, if we look at our Explorer over here, I have a thing called Refine Cracks. And if I open that guy up, let's see, open him, yep, here we go. So this is all of those nodes I just copied and pasted them into. I went up here and said, in the Explorer, under our stone floor, you right click and say New Substance Graph. So I have a new graph that is just this procedure, if you will. And at the beginning here, I make sure that we give it an input. And then at the end here, I make sure I give it an output. And then when we go back to our main graph, and let's see, you are, where you at? Right here. So we go back to our main graph now, I can take this Refine Cracks and drag it over onto the sheet here and drop it. And now here it is. That whole process is in one piece. And just to show you, we'll go ahead and create a new SVG node, and I'll draw this up. So from new file, yep, oh no, I'm sorry. I did that wrong. SVG from new resource. I saw the word file and said, yes, new file. We don't need this big, let's do 256 should be fine for our purposes here. There we go, try and keep them lightweight, there we go. And we're gonna go to the paint, and we're already on the white color. Alright, sorry about that. So now what we have here is our freeform tool down here, and I've chosen the paintbrush, and now we're gonna draw a shape. So we'll just draw our shape. We can be as creative as we want with it. Let's add some totally unrock-like features. We'll just put some jagged lines in here just to show you this is a custom shape. Okay, perfectly good. Now, if I drag and drop this to connect it, it will automatically create a grayscale conversion. And when I look at this, look at that. We've got our cracks in the rock here in any shape we want. And it's all procedural, so it's all taking all these things into account, and it's dynamically changing. So I go here and say, you know what, let's just make like a smiley face in the rock, right? So there we go. If we go back here, it updates, and there we go. There's our smiley face in the rock. So now this shape we can take and just do an invert. And if we just slide that into there, boom, we're inverted and we're ready to add these into our overall shape. And just to prove that it works, let's go ahead and bring you up here. And this guy would go into something like this. There we go. And now we have smiley face in the rock. Totally silly, but it proves the point that we have our whole function here condensed down into one node. It saves a lot of space on our chart here. See, it's gotten kind of chaotic. And I can have multiple iterations here. Here I've got 2 different iterations, and all I had to do was draw an SVG. It's real simple to draw. I can just go in here and refine the shape a little bit further. You can add a few dead ends and that sort of thing. And look, it's updating as I draw. And I messed that part up in the middle a little bit there, but it's easy to refine and make changes on the fly. It's all done dynamically. It's really awesome. So I encourage you guys to try this out. It's real simple. Up here in your Explorer, on your main SBS, you right click and say New Substance Graph. So here, I'll show you. We'll do one real fast. I'm going to take these and say Copy, Control C, and do a New Substance Graph. And we're just going to call it Test. You know, this is our example. There we go. So it spits this out here. And I'm going to say Paste. And there they are. So now we just have to have an input. So input color or grayscale is probably better. You want to make sure that you're working with grayscale and adding color later. So I'll tack that on the end, and then an output. There we go. Boom. Now this is going to perform the same function. So if we go back to our original, right here, we can look at our Explorer, and we have this test graph that I can now drag in and see here. Now, because we had outputs on that already, because it's a new graph, it has this base color, normal, roughness, metallic, and our original output that we made. So you can have multiple outputs from one node really easily. So I can take this and put this into here, and you'll see, what should it show me? Out of the output, I should see it. So if I do a blend this guy, there you go. So that's showing me from this SVG node, it's getting processed just like it is here. And then this is the one output, but then I also have these other outputs, which right now we're not feeding anything into them, so they're kind of blank, kind of null. but this is a really handy way to create your own little like custom functions. This is kind of like in programming when you have a function, you know you're going to do something over and over again, then it's a good idea to kind of encapsulate it like this, and that way you can say, okay, I want to call this thing and use it, and you can use it over and over again without having to do this multiple times. Like if I were to do this the old way, without doing these custom functions, I'd have to have one of these for every type of crack that I want to have in this thing, and look at how just huge this gets. And it's a huge waste of computation to be doing the same thing over and over again. This makes no sense. Why not just condense it all into here, and then I can send everything through it one at a time. You can even put them in series. It makes a lot more sense, because look at how dense and crowded that is when I can hopefully Control Z out of this. There we go. Look, we can clean all that up. Even I don't even need this eventually because I've already encapsulated it. So, a little long-winded, I'm sorry. I was excited about this today, and I wanted to share it with you. It's very handy, and I'm planning on doing a lot more of this. And some of my favorite functions I'm going to be turning into these little graphs. And I will release an SBSAR, I believe, or an SBS where you can actually look at them and see exactly how they're all laid out, including we'll put frames on everything. I'll explain it all like this. I'll expand it a bit more and put little notes and explain what it's doing so you can learn from them. Absolutely. I encourage you to take a look and dig in. So, as always, guys, I hope you have enjoyed. Please keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.